Hi guys, welcome to Katie's Insight, where I give my insight on all kinds of things. And right now we're going to keep talking about stimulus. You guys know we have lots of movement right now. That doesn't necessarily mean things going to happen. But look, movement is better than complete standstill, which is where we have been. And right now I want to update you on where Mitch McConnell is at, because we have two conflicting reports, but we have breaking news when it comes to these new stimulus packages and where we're at. So we know finally this week we have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they are coming together, and they are all trying to finally get something done. We even have both Mitch McConnell and Pelosi together in private doing meetings. This is the first time evil old Mitch McConnell has done anything to want to help anybody. And this is, I don't know if I'd say the first time, but this is Nancy Pelosi actually meeting with him, trying as well. Now, we've watched Pelosi and Schumer try, but it seems like it's half-hearted. But all of a sudden, everybody's so concerned because we're going to have a double-dip recession. Hearing it everywhere from both parties is driving me nuts. I will be honest, I'm getting so mad when I'm hearing all this every time, because I'm like, you guys have known. You guys have known for months. Wait and see. Evil Mitch McConnell doesn't care if kids starve, and blowout Nancy Pelosi both decided to wait. It makes me mad when Nancy Pelosi's like, well, he wanted to pause. That's all you've done too, Nance. You just did it manipulatively and more different than he did. At least he was vocal. And he was honest about it. Not that he's not being manipulative right now, but we have a lot of movement, and here's where we're at. We now have 3 bills floating around that could possibly get passed. We now have pressure from both sides saying we need to get stimulus passed by the end of this month. And not just the end of this month, guys. Here's the kicker for this. December 11th, the government shuts down, and Trump has been threatening to not sign anything about it. And what that means is the government can run out of money and all these people don't get paychecks. That would be fantastic. I think we would all do big smiles if none of these people got paid. But it also means our governments basically cease to exist, and most of the lower paying people don't get paid either. So really, even though it would hurt them, which would be fantastic, it hurts the people like us. So we don't want that to happen. I wish there was a way to not hurt the people like us and let them not get to have paychecks. I will say, as much as everybody hates Trump, and y'all know I'm not pro-Trump or anti-Trump, at least one thing you can say about him is he doesn't take a paycheck. He does not take a paycheck for any of this stuff from the federal government. A lot of people don't know that about him, but I wanted to throw that out there. That's not an argument either which way. I'm just saying it's a reality. So I don't think that would affect him. And really, if these people didn't get paid, it wouldn't affect them that much, because they make minimum starting about $200,000. $179,000 is on the lower end to barely be there, not to mention the other money they get for their other jobs, the lobbying, all of the other stuff, that, you know, speeches, book tours, you name it. But here's where we are at. The Problem Solvers Caucus came out with their own plan, and right now this looks like the best one that may have legs, because finally, and I don't think anybody expected this, Pelosi and Schumer are backing this bill. It's right under $1 trillion. It's at $908 billion. And we have Steve Mnuchin. I think we need to really thank Steve Mnuchin this week, because Steve Mnuchin was the one, I think, who really got the ball rolling by taking money away from the Fed to give back to the Congress to repurpose for a new bill. Now, I don't know if this new bill is going to have that repurposed money. That seems to remain to be seen as of yet, so I will continue to update you guys. But again, this is good news because it's made the Republicans now finally come to the table. We did have Republicans, but it was more the White House. It was the White House and it was the Democrats who were all in private negotiating. And now we actually have the Republicans on board, and they're doing private negotiations. They're not talking about it publicly. Why? I don't know. Maybe they're all trying to be more dramatic. Like, it's just, this is like the dumbest, most boring Game of Thrones, except we're all starving. I've never even seen Game of Thrones. It's just the previews look way more exciting than what we have to watch with these morons. But this is where we're at right now. Every time I say the word moron or idiot, I think of Dwight from The Office. Idiot. It makes what always plays in my head. I see like Dwight with like an elf hat on and his little elf ears on the Christmas episode. Here's where we are at right now. So we have the Democrats on board for the Problem Solvers Caucus bill. And that's a good step. We have everybody negotiating, but we have conflicting reports. We have reports that McConnell has said, and at this point, guys, the Senate is so divided anyways. If we can't get McConnell on board, I don't know that we can get anything done. But then again, even though he gets on board, doesn't mean anything. Keep in mind, McConnell has his own bill he's trying to push. $300 billion. Remember, he went from right under $1 trillion. That was a skinny bill. He went to the $500 billion, the Bones bill, and now the Dust bill is what I call it. The 300. And that 300 won't pass. I do not see that passing. But let's take a look and see exactly where we are at. Y'all know me, I have information because I like to give you a deep dive. So McConnell initially shoots down the bipartisan $900 billion virus stimulus plan as the stalemate drags on. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell rejected a new bipartisan $908 billion stimulus plan put forward in an effort to break the legislative stalemate as the virus surges throughout the country. It says Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell rejected her proposal, bipartisan virus stimulus package, Tuesday, amid months of congressional inaction on curbing the economic damage from the outbreak. The Kentucky Republican, who has supported about $500 billion in new aid spending, said he wants to pass what he called a targeted relief bill this year. McConnell said he spoke to the White House officials about what President Donald Trump would sign into law. He plans to offer potential solutions to GOP senators and get their feedback. I don't buy this at all. I don't trust this guy at all. I mean, we'll have to wait. To me, this just sounds like he's rejecting it. And he's, in my opinion, doing one big commercial for what it is that he wants. Like, that's just how it looks to me. I could be wrong. So, continues to say, we just don't have time to waste. If you hear him talk, I'm sorry. It's funny. And I don't like to make fun of people for things they can't help. At the same time, I'm okay mimicking him because he bothers me because he's going to feed starving kids. Just like I'd mimic Pelosi. I don't know how to speak that erratically and weirdly and make the facial tics and then just spurring off into drunk nothingness. Like, y'all know me. I can talk about 12 subjects at one time and tie them back together and at least be silly and entertaining. She just starts going like, well, she'll start lying about stimulus. Like she's like, oh yeah, Trump and he can take 130 billion from the PPP and then George Floyd and remember Sandy Hook? Well, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, if you guys haven't seen it, go watch my drunk Pelosi video, the last one. Those are so much fun to do. So he says, we just don't have time to waste. He told reporters in response to the roughly $908 billion plan put together by bipartisan members of the GOP-controlled Senate and Democrat-held House. McConnell said a must-pass spending bill and pandemic relief provisions will all likely come in one package. Congress needs to approve funding legislation by December 11th to avoid a government shutdown. The framework of the bipartisan relief bill Tuesday includes $288 billion in small business aid, such as the PPP loan program, $160 billion in state and local government relief, and $180 billion to fund a $300 per week supplemental unemployment benefit through March. It would put $16 billion into vaccine distribution, testing, and contact tracing, funnel $82 billion into education, and put $45 billion into transportation. It would allocate funds for rental assistance, childcare, and broadband. The proposal would not include another direct payment to most Americans. It would also offer temporary federal protections for the virus-related lawsuit, a provision Democrats have opposed while stalemate determines their own laws. I think they're talking about the, now I'm blanking, what's it called? The thing that the Republicans are trying to put in, what's it called? Sound off in the comments if you know, where you can't sue other businesses. I talk about it all the time. There's a phrase for it I've forgotten. Please forgive me. Y'all help me out in the comments. Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, a member of the congressional group that has discussed a new relief plan, earlier called it an interim package to provide support until President-elect Joe Biden, if that's who it is, takes office in January. If there's one thing I'm hearing uniformly, it's Congress. Do not leave town for the holidays, leaving the country and the economy adrift. With all these initial CARES Act programs running out, Warner told CNBC's Squawks Box on Tuesday. Well, that's good news that at least they're saying nobody leave and be prepared to come back. It is unclear whether lawmakers can craft a plan that can get through both chambers of commerce before the end of the year. That's what I'm wondering. When many programs expire, Democrats have opposed liability protections and pushed for a $600 per week supplemental jobless benefit, while the GOP is against new state and local aid. Of course they are. Senator Joe Manchin, who worked on the proposal, said the group had no assurances from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi or Senate Majority Leader if they would plan to vote on it. That has now been changed. So that's where we were at as of just a couple days ago, and things have taken a big turn. Let's go ahead because we have McConnell on the Senate floor talking today. So here we go from CNBC. This is what I wanted to update you guys with. McConnell says a virus stimulus compromise is within reach. We can do this. It's a quote from him. So it says, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he sees hopeful signs for striking a virus stimulus deal before the end of the year. Democrats and Republicans in Congress have been scrambling to strike a pandemic relief deal before the end of the year. And after House Speaker Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer backed a bipartisan $908 billion stimulus package, McConnell releases his roughly $500 billion. I heard it was $333, but let's go ahead and look into this. It says, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Thursday he has seen hopeful signs for striking a virus stimulus deal before the end of the year. Compromise is within reach. We know where we agree. We can do this, the Kentucky Republican said on the Senate floor. It's hopeful, guys. Doesn't yet mean anything, though. Whether Democrats who lead the House and hold up any bills in the Senate will accept McConnell's vision of compromise remains yet to be seen. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer cut their aid demands Wednesday when they embraced the $908 billion bipartisan proposal as a starting point for talks with McConnell. Still, the GOP leader rejected their proposal when a bicameral group released it this week. He put forward his own roughly $500 billion plan. On Thursday, McConnell called for a deal similar to the one he unveiled. He includes the Paycheck Protection Program loan funding and money for education and vaccine distribution. Democrats have backed those provisions. However, it includes one piece Democrats find toxic. There it is, liability protection. I forgot the word. Virus liability protections for businesses and universities. Pelosi and Schumer have also repeatedly pushed for state and local government aid and supplemental federal unemployment payments, where McConnell's plan does not include that. Speaking on the Senate floor after his Republican counterpart, Schumer said McConnell does not seem inclined to compromise. A virus infection surge and record hospitalizations have led to new economic restrictions and fears of a weakening job market. At the same time, protections for unemployed Americans, renters, and federal student loan borrowers put in place early this year expire at the end of December. So we all know major programs, including what really scares me the most, the extended benefits for unemployment, the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. That means people who are independent contractors, business owners can no longer get help with unemployment. To me, that's very scary. Congress has run short on time to send more help. Leaders have signaled they could attach relief measures to a government funding bill, which they need to get approved by December 11th, and that might actually be happening, guys. Earlier Thursday, the November 2nd Senate Democrat called for the vote on the $908 billion package. We don't want to go home and face the reality of what's going to happen at the end of this month, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois told MSNBC. It's inexcusable. We've got to move forward, and we want our bill called, he said. Durbin and President-elect Joe Biden have described the proposal as an imperfect down payment on stimulus as Democrats push for sweeping aid package. Congressional leaders have acknowledged they will likely consider more relief after Biden takes office on January 20th. Some Republican senators have embraced little or no new stimulus spending, arguing that the economy has improved enough to sustain Americans until a large share of the population receives vaccines. Other GOP lawmakers say the federal government needs to offer more support at a time when more than 20 million Americans are receiving some form of unemployment benefits, and food banks across the country see unprecedented demand. Representative Tom Reed, who helped craft the bill, plans from the House, told CNBC earlier Thursday that the price tag is right in the range of reason. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's hear exactly what McConnell had to say on that Senate floor about where this is all going. Let's take a look.
President, anyone who's heard me speak about coronavirus relief going back months has heard one central principle. Let's deliver right away on all the subjects where everybody agrees and argue over the rest later. The solution to this impasse has been in plain sight for a long time now for anybody willing to see it. Agree where we agree, bank that progress, make law, take a whole lot of pressure off struggling people, and then keep debating the areas where we don't agree. There's no actual reason why the fates of common sense policies, like a second round of the job-saving Paycheck Protection Program, had to be linked to the fates of fringe proposals like stimulus checks for There's no reason why the fate of funding for vaccine distribution or extending unemployment aid or legal certainty for universities should have been tied to radical ideas like paying people more not to work than essential workers earn on the job. These linkages have been totally arbitrary. Just a political decision that Democratic leaders made many months back. Democratic leaders have tried to create a narrative where it's taken for granted that the most bipartisan, commonsensical relief policies would deliver with their side's most outlandish ideas. Well, that just isn't so. They've tried to create a dynamic where they move from one made-up number to a second, slightly smaller arbitrary number and call it a meaningful concession. The truth is simple. This has always been about policy differences. We have two sides with two different visions for the best way to support our nation through what we hope will be the last chapter of the pandemic. Now, that isn't new. We have disagreements all the time. Our system can handle disagreements, but both sides have to be willing to compile their commonalities and make law here. And up to now, our Democratic colleagues have declined to do that. Remember, their side said in March, this pandemic was, quote, a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. So when Republicans tried to pass common sense relief measures in July and in September, and in October as well, our Democratic colleagues actually blocked policies they do not even oppose. Now it's been heartening to see a few hopeful signs in the past few days. After months of arbitrary attachment to sky-high dollar amounts that the Speaker of the House claimed were essential, that it would be an insult to settle for a nickel less, those baseless claims have suddenly evaporated. That is at least movement in the right direction. But the underlying reality, Mr. President, is still with us. There are many important policies that have strong bipartisan support. There are many others that do not. And the way to help the country is for our Democratic colleagues to finally let the former group be signed into law while we keep arguing over the rest. The targeted second round of paycheck protection that we've been trying to establish since July would help a huge number of small businesses survive to the finish line and help huge numbers of workers keep their jobs. And it could pass the Senate today probably with 95 votes. With the apparent success of Operation Warp Speed, it makes no sense to skimp on the systems to distribute and deliver vaccines around the country. Those funds could pass the Senate today, possibly unanimously. University presidents have made it clear they need legal certainty for their reopenings. Let me say that again. University presidents have made it clear they need legal certainty for their reopenings. That shouldn't be partisan. Liability protection should be able to pass the Senate today. A number of our Democratic colleagues have focused especially on several of the unemployment relief programs that are set to expire in a matter of days. I specifically made sure to include those programs in my framework a few days ago. That extension could pass the Senate today. The House of Representatives is spending this week on pressing issues like, serious and important legislation benefiting the national crisis. But here in the Senate, I put forward a serious and highly targeted relief proposal, including the elements which we know the President is ready and willing to sign into law. Why should these impactful and non-controversial life preservers be delayed 1 second longer? At long last, let's do what Congress does when we want an outcome. Let's make law on all the subjects where we agree, on all the areas where President Trump is ready to sign bipartisan relief into law. I promise our deep differences will still be here to debate. Our disagreements will be right where we left them. But what can't wait? What can't wait? American workers, American small businesses, K through 12 schools, the vulnerable Americans and frontline healthcare workers for whom speedy vaccine distribution will literally be a life or death matter. Yesterday, my home state of Kentucky experienced yet another dreadful record-setting day. But Kentuckians also know that hope is in sight. Our state's workers are standing by at the UPS Worldport in Louisville and the DHL Express American Hub in northern Kentucky, key logistics centers that will play crucial roles in sending vaccines all around the country. Our people are hurting, but they're ready to finish this fight. Congress should not keep them waiting for reinforcements that should have arrived literally months ago. So compromise is within reach. We know where we agree. We can do this. Let me say it again. We can do this. And we need to do this. So let's be about actually making a law.
All right, y'all, them some fighting words from McConnell. Lord have mercy. Here we go. He says, and by the way, I had to do this transcript, so it's going to be a little bit funny, so heads up. Anyone who's heard me speak of virus relief going back months has heard one central principle. Let's deliver it right away on all subjects where everyone agrees and argue over the rest later. And that is true. He said, hey, let's come together where we agree and we'll debate the rest. So he says, we need solutions for the impasse, and we have them in solutions that have been in plain sight for anybody who's willing to see it. He says, agree where we agree, back progress, make law, help struggling people, and then debate the areas we don't agree. And there's no reason that we can't have faith in common sense programs like a second round of PPP, and why that needs to be linked to fringe proposals for stimulus checks for people who may or may not supposed to be in the country. Please infer I have to edit words out because YouTube is silly. No reason why the fate of funding for vaccination or extending unemployment for or legal certainties for universities should be tied to radical ideas like paying people more to stay home than to go back to work. I see where he's coming from, but I can argue this point because people don't make enough to really just survive. And I feel like this would more be an argument for why we should have a better living wage more than anything else. Because I agree people should be getting paid more, and I can understand why they would want more on unemployment. I also understand his concept. It's common sense. Don't pay people more to stay home. But how about we just pay people a living wage, period? You know, it kind of bothers me because he'll say stuff like, well, it's common sense. But then it's like, okay, well, if it's such common sense, here's the other common sense that you, in my opinion, you leave out intentionally and manipulatively. This is why I don't like Republicans either. He's a bit more straightforward, but you have to really read through these lines. Like Nancy Pelosi, it's very obvious when she lies and she's being hypocritical. With Mitch McConnell, there's a little more behind your back that you have to really do to kind of see it. So it says, these linkages are totally arbitrary, and Democrats made political decisions Democrats made many political decisions months back. The Democrats have created a narrative that they've taken for granted, that bipartisan common sense programs will live or die off the backs of their outlandish ideas. I think all that's correct so far. They tried to create a dynamic where they move from one made-up number to a slightly less number and called a concession. And he nailed it. He's right. Truth is simple. It's always been about policy differences. We have two sides with two different visions for a way to support our nation and for what we hope is the last chapter of the pandemic. And that's true. The Republicans and the Democrats. That's why I've said we have to come together and see the things that work and the things that don't work. Because otherwise, we're just fighting each other. When we fight each other, it's divide and conquer for the people at the top, guys. So it says we have two sides with two different visions for a way to support our nation and what we hope is the last chapter of this pandemic. That didn't do. We have disagreements all the time. Our system can handle that, but both sides have to be willing to make law here. But Democrats have declined to do that. Remember in March, they said tremendous opportunity. This is the Democrats had said this was a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. When Republicans tried to do common sense relief measures this year, I didn't know that was said. I wonder, some of the comments, guys, have anything on that? Did Pelosi say that? I could totally see them saying that, and I do think that's what they tried to use this for. I think they used this situation for several things, for a wish list for themselves. Absolutely. But I also think Republicans are doing it too, just not to the same extent and not as much as out in the open, like these liability protections. Come on, that's here to help big business. Come on, guys. That's all for Republicans. Like, let's be very clear. So, again, it's BS on both sides. But he's calling her out, and I think it's funny. So, he says, We have disagreements on things all the time. Our system can handle disagreements, but both sides have to be willing to make law here, but the Democrats have declined to do that. Amen. Remember March, they said this was a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. When the Republicans tried to do common sense relief measures this year, in July, September, and October, talking about when they tried to pass different things. Democrats, they blocked the policies that they don't even oppose. They block policies they don't oppose. Agreed. Now it's been heartening to see a few hopeful signs in the last few days and months of arbitrary attachments to sky-high amounts that speakers said were essential. Agreed. And she said that it would be an insult to take a nickel less than the baseless claims have disappeared. And that's correct. Remember, months she was not going to do anything, not going to take even a dime less because, oh, it's an insult. Because we need this money for the people. The people are worth it. Well, I guess all of a sudden they're not worth it now that you're backing a shorter bill, are they, Nance? Again, just such lying and manipulation. And it makes me wonder what's happening in the background that we don't get to know. It just really makes me wonder. So he goes on to say, that is at least movement in the right direction, but the underlying reality is still with us. There are many important policies that have strong bipartisan support and many that do not. A way to help the country is to let the former group, so the people that agree, sign things into law while we argue about the rest. The targeted second round of PPP that we've been trying to do since July would have a huge number of effect on small businesses and help workers keep their jobs. Unfortunately, guys, most small businesses are done at this point, aren't they? They're just done. I feel like this would be more helping big business, which is what it really did to begin with. It could pass the Senate today with 95 votes, and in due time, success of the Operation Warp Speed, it makes no sense to do anything different. Those funds could pass the Senate today unanimously, talking about warp speed and getting the vaccines out. Those could pass the Senate today unanimously. University presidents made it clear they need certainty to reopen the liabilities. That shouldn't be partisan. Democrats have to focus on unemployment relief programs. I specifically made sure to include those programs in my framework. That extension could pass the Senate today. The House of Representatives spending this week on pressing issues like, I'm not even sure if I can say the word. I think I edited it out. Think about it's an herb, might be kind of like a grass that you can smoke that can help different health issues and sometimes make you feel funny. Please infer, because I don't know if YouTube's going to let me even talk about it. I know. Y'all, it's just YouTube's YouTube. You love them and hate them. This is just where it's at. So I'm trying to work within the framework that we have. And he says, serious and important legislation benefiting the national crisis. He called her out. Yeah, I think that's not the biggest thing we need to worry about right now, but that's what the House is worried about. So he says, in the Senate, I put forth highly targeted relief efforts that the president will sign. Why should these impactful and life preservers be delayed a second longer? Let's do what Congress does when we win an outcome. Let's make laws on subjects we can agree on and that Trump will sign and make that into law. I promise our differences will still be for debate and the differences will be there right where we left them. You know what can't wait? The American workers, the American small businesses, K-12 schools, vulnerable Americans, frontline workers whose vaccinations would be life-saving for people who are perishing. So that's basically what he says. And I wanted to go over this because even though we've heard him so far not want to back the Problem Solvers Caucus, he is ready to do something. Now, what that is and where that goes, we'll wait and see. And I'm curious to know what happens with his bill, if it will be voted on and when it'll be voted on in the Senate. But I wanted you guys to know, in case you hear that, not all hope is lost here because it looks like he is wanting something done and others are wanting something done. It's just going to be a matter of what can get done and when and how. But the good news is at least there is movement on all of this. And again, we'll have to just kind of wait and see what happens. And here's the other thing. Remember, the Problem Solvers Caucus is a starting point. It's a framework. And Mitch McConnell's bill is probably not going to go through, guys. This is probably going to get rejected. And if it does, this may be the starting point that he ends up jumping in on. I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying it won't be. We won't know yet. But it's a start and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Okay, guys, if you like my video, please help me out and give me a big thumbs up. Like this video, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified what's coming in the pipeline for you and your stimulus money. Also, y'all, sound off in the comments. I want to hear everything you have to say. And guys, please share this content with as many people as you know that are struggling right now. People who are on unemployment, waiting for unemployment, stimulus checks, SB loan and grants, everything in between. I've got tons of tools and tons of resources to help you on this channel. I would love nothing more than to do just that. And guys, the more you like, subscribe, comment, notifications, share the content, the more my channel grows, the more things I can do to get back to you guys. Like, our $100 gift card giveaway. Very simple. This is all you have to do. Like every video you see, subscribe, hit notifications, comment, share the content, boom, you're entered, you're eligible. That's all you have to do. Make sure and do it, like I said, for every video you see, and guys, the more comments you leave, the more chances you have of winning. So for instance, when it comes to the comments, make sure and leave as many as possible. If you leave 100 comments, 100 times more chance to win. Yay, good luck to everybody. Also, follow me on Facebook, Katie's Insight, like the page, join the group, Katie's Corner. Will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Please go there. You can look at all the stimulus questions that you want, ask everything, and we are helping people on a more one-on-one basis find stimulus money in your area. We're just a group of people helping each other. There's no cost or anything. We just want to help each other while the government fails us. Okay, guys, and gift card winners for the last couple weeks are, because I said I would announce them, they are King Jack and Sadie Edwards. Congratulations. I'm going to have information in the description on how you can get your card. Remember, you've got 3 days to claim your card, 72 hours to email me, or you forfeit. It goes back in the pile for other people. So yay, congratulations, and keep trying, guys, because you guys could win. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to peace out for now and get videos ready for later. Everybody take care. Blessings. I'm so grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for allowing me to do what I do, and I'll continue to do my best to provide you the content that you need and help you find money in your area. Hugs and kisses. Mwah. Goodbye, guys.